Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight we're going to be exploring brushes and how you can use them and the different kinds of brushes. So stick around. We're going to have some fun with some practice lessons, and you're going to learn a little bit more about your brushes. So stick around and I will teach you that next. Class is going to last for about an hour, I'm hoping. And so if you've got a little time, sit down with me and do a little painting. So if you're new here, my name is Paige. I'm the Chief Pixel Pusher and Paintbrusher for Gumption. And this is kind of my platform to teach you a little bit more about watercolor and beyond. Hopefully tonight's stream will be okay. I know that we have an extra load on our internet tonight, so if I'm going in and out, let me know if you can't hear me or see me in the chat there. And if you'd like to say hello in chat and let me know that you're here with me. This is a great class for anybody, so you don't need anything special other than some brushes and a color or two of paint. So usually I go to my supplies here, and any kind of watercolor paint that you have, you can use tonight. You can use your favorite color. It doesn't matter because we're just going to be making marks on paper and discussing brushes. This is also a great time for you to be able to ask questions, and hopefully I can answer them. I'm not an all-knowing person, but I know quite a bit about brushes and have used a few different types now. So I definitely have some favorites, and hopefully you learned something new tonight. Okay, so if you're here, let me know you're here in chat. If you have questions or trouble with the stream, let me know. And I'm just going to get started here. So, all right, so we're going to switch to our overhead camera here. Maybe. All right, so first we're going to explore round brushes. And this is a round brush. Hopefully you can see that all right. Maybe I can zoom in here. This is one kind of round brush. And let's see. I had another brush with me. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. This is also a round brush. So you'll see when I wet this brush, this tip is pretty pointy in comparison to this other one. So this is kind of a soft round brush. Hey Colin, it's nice to see that you're here. Thank you. I really am excited about our fence too. We got a new fence today. Finally, so that's good. We have a gate and everything. It's pretty exciting. So here are round brushes. And this is probably when I started doing watercolor, our teacher recommended that we use a synthetic round brush, and we had Winsor & Newton brushes, and they were all round and varying sizes. And this is a great starter brush for anybody who's wanting to pick up painting. And as you get into the flow of things, you kind of understand how things work. You can check out some of these other brushes. So today we're going to kind of go through a series of exercises, and I'm going to turn this camera off so we can make sure we can get everything we need in here. And I'm not sure how many pieces of paper you are going to need for this, but I'll try to keep it to a minimum. And hopefully I don't start sneezing on you because it is definitely allergy season at our house today. So hopefully you are doing well and enjoying this trip into fall. I think we're finally going to hit some fall colors and temperatures, which I'm stoked about. Okay, so I'm going to use this pointy brush so you can kind of see its versatility. This brush is pretty versatile too, but I really am enjoying this brush. This is a silver black velvet brush that is for watercolor. So our first exercise is to make thin lines with our brush. And you can do that by utilizing the tip of the brush. Now that's a pretty thin line there. Let's see if I can scroll in. So you can test your ability here to see if you can do parallel lines, parallel thin lines. This is a great, versatile, all-around brush. And next, I'm going to show you how to make thicker lines. So instead of just using the tip of the brush, if you lay down the brush, you can make thicker lines. Oh, I even made them go into one another. This is something I think that's really important to keep in mind is don't forget to utilize your brush. It is quite magical. And another exercise that I would have you do once you've got these two done is to move from a thin line to a thick line. Look at that. This is really quite relaxing to practice, I think. Thin line, and then push down on your brush, thicker line, bring it up, thinner line. This is a great way to also make leaves with your brush. So practice this a little bit and see how you do. This was a class that I collected information for last year. I did it for my class, and I think they got a lot out of it. So I hope you will too here. So there's also what's called a twirl, and the Mind of Watercolor. I saw this guy do this on the Mind of Watercolor, and I thought it was really interesting. So he twirls his brush and drags. Twirl, drag. Twirl, drag. I mean, really what you're doing is getting to know your brushes and having a little fun with watercolor, not being intimidated and trying new things. So that's really important. Another way to use your brush is you can press and lift. And you can create different textures that way. Hopefully you're practicing along with me. You can also scrub, right? Sometimes when we do a gradient or we're doing a background, you're gonna drag it back and forth, drag that bead. You're probably used to doing that by now, but that's just one technique that you can do. You can also dab, although I don't actually do this too much with my brush, but maybe I should do more. But you can see we have some really interesting texture here. I'm going to zoom in a little that you get from that. Okay. So next we are going to, we're going to do a little scumbling. And scumbling is good for water. It's good for texture. And mostly it's with a more dry brush and more pigment. So let's see, my brush has been wet, but I am dipping it right into my paint. You can see that there. And that might not be dry enough. Let's see. Have to see what's close by here. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of get out this, I'm gonna pick up some of this pigment. So this is kind of how I think of scumbling. You have very little water on your brush and a lot of paint, but you can see here it creates this texture. Like this would be great for bark on a tree, foliage, and you can also drag your brush this way. I might need a little bit of water here. Let's see if I can, that might be too wet here. There you go. But you see you get texture here. Add a little bit more water. More texture. So there are lots of ways to use these brushes. Let's see, what else do we want to do? So this is kind of, I mean, this would also be good for sand and that kind of a thing. Also, you can use these brushes. I'm going to go back to this round brush. Let's change our color here so we can kind of see. You can flick, so you can create grasses. You can create trees with this. Well, let me move this camera out of the way. You can create grasses. So these are really wonderful brushes. You can get a lot out of them. You can even drag it on its side. Have we done that one? So that is handy. You can even combine techniques. Let's see. Let's get a little bit of orange here. Maybe a roll and flick. Roll and flick. Maybe make a little bit of fire. You can also do leaves. So these are great brushes for leaves because you can start out thin, get wide. And you're just utilizing that brush itself. So, and it makes such an even, clean look there that I dare you to practice your leaf making and see what you can do. All right. So that is great for the round brush. A good all-around brush. Let me know if you have any questions here in the comments or if I'm moving a little too fast for you. I can definitely slow down. So next we're going to go and we're going to talk about flat brushes. So you can see this here. These are pretty similar to big paint brushes, right? They're big and flat. And these are not to be discounted either. These are great for landscapes as well. You'll have to excuse my purple nail. That's from spray painting my mixer this week. Just a hanger on. Okay. So before I forget, let's do this flat. So you can exercise a lot of what we did with our round brush with the flat brush. So I'm going to use a different color here. And we will play with this brush. So of course, you can do thin lines by taking your brush upright and moving from side to side. These are kind of great sometimes to really get into some weird tight spots. You can also hold it at, I don't know, 45-degree angle and drag it like you would the round brush, but obviously you have a little square patch there. And you can exercise kind of both of those. So you can experiment with dragging with the thin and turning it to the side. Need more pigment here. Thin, turning it to the side. You can make leaves that way too. Or thin, lay it down, thin. Or tap. And dab. You can also use this a little bit for flicking, I think. This one's going to be a little wider than our grass up here. And again, you can do the same thing that you do here with that moving of the bead. Let's see if I can straighten this out for you guys. So you can move from one side to the other. So as you are painting more, you'll find that you have preferences on what you like to use. These can be really fun brushes to use as well. And you can also, one thing to keep in mind, I think letters sometimes use brushes like this, but you can zigzag. So just like in lettering, you know, you have your thins that go up, your thicks that go down. So they're fun to play with. And you can also, create a circle by just twisting it around. So flats are good, solid brushes as well. And just as a kind of a side note, because grainer brushes are flat brushes as well, but they have a very different purpose. So here I have a couple of grainer brushes, and they do exactly what they sound like they do. They create texture and can also be used for hair on animals. They're kind of a handy brush. So let's take a look at this. So you can see it is just like a, let's see if I can focus in on that. Maybe. It is just like a flat brush, but it has some of the hairs that are cut out of it. So it's automatically kind of missing hairs in certain spots. So as I drag this down, you can see, let's zoom in here. You can't quite see that. Maybe I'll use this bigger one, a little bit more pigment for you. So this is a great example. You can see here how not all of the bristles go all the way up the top here. It's like they're cut a little bit short or thinned out. So you can see that a grainer brush really does create texture and creates, you could create grass with these, fur texture on a tree. But you see how you can use that. And they come in a variety of sizes. I have them large to a small. I think this one is my smallest one. We'll try that again. This one doesn't seem to be quite as thinned, but you can see the texture. So if you're a person who likes to do animals, but maybe you don't want to spend all day painting little tiny pieces of hair, this might be a brush that you could pick up that you might really enjoy. So before I forget, I'm going to write that here. That's a grainer brush. Okay. So the next brushes that we're going to look at are rigger brushes or script brushes. They got their name from painting ships, and they are, let's see, this one is a liner brush. They kind of have different names here. This one's a scripting brush. Oh, you can't see that. Let's zoom out here. This is kind of a wide liner brush, but here this is a script brush. They hold a lot of pigment, and they are long and narrow, and I love these for lines. And if you're a little bit shaky, this might be a good brush for you to do straight lines, because straight lines are hard for the best of us. But if you have a little bit of shake, this is what you probably need to have in your life. So it holds a lot of pigment, and you can just create lines. Need a little more water in there. Wonderful lines. These are great for whiskers or outlining. And in particular, this one, I don't have a ton of these, but this is a royal white Trekell script, and this is a synthetic bristle brush. I am a big fan of synthetics, although, you know, my mom loved sable brushes, and that's kind of a personal preference. I see now more that companies are creating synthetic hair brushes. They also make brushes with squirrel hair, sable. So this brush is a synthetic brush that also has, I think, squirrel hair as well. Not sure how I feel about that. I am an animal lover, so I kind of think twice about that. But sable brushes are pretty awesome. Okay, so I'm going to explore. I also want you to see another brush. This is a golden Trekell brush. This would be a liner brush as well. Let's see, can you see that? So that is a very thin, long liner brush, and I use this oftentimes when I'm painting in watercolor to get thin lines. And you can lay it down like this to get a little wider line, or you can just keep holding it and keep dragging it by the tip, and look at that fine line. That's pretty awesome. I highly recommend having one of these or two of these in your arsenal, because they really do help when you're outlining things or doing flowers, or you need a thin line. They are perfect. So let's put our liner here. And I have another script brush. This is another script brush. This is a Trekell brush that I got. And we will, let's see if we can just see what it does. So I did a mural here a couple months ago, and I used a brush just like this for the lining and the outlining of some of the animals in the mural. and it looks pretty tiny. It's pretty great. And I used it so much. And what was just great about it is I could just really get some line variation and some thin lines as well. So as you can see, I recommend playing with your brushes and doing your thin to thick. You can even do it a little bit here, but not much. But when you drag that brush around, you really can get some motion out of it. And this is what, you know, a lot of artists will use for lettering. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it, but we can try it. So we'll do it, maybe not. That may not have enough water in it. Not the best day that you ever saw, but you can see how that works. These are great brushes. Okay, so let's get a new page, and we can continue on. Okay, so let's talk about the fan brush, because the fan brush is a great tool as well. So this is what the fan brush looks like. It's true to its name. And this is great for foliage or grass. So you can tap it. It also is great for creating dots. Random dots. Eyelashes maybe? I don't know. But you can see how you can utilize that to create. And just like our other brushes, you can use it on its side like that, or you can create some grass. I don't ever use this very often, but when you need one, right? So that is your fan brush. You should probably have one of these in your arsenal if you are a landscape painter. Do you have any questions about the fan brush? Leave them in the chat comments next to this window. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the cat's tongue brush. I have a few different versions of this brush, but as you can see, let's zoom in here. They're kind of, it's like a fingernail, or it comes to a point there. And these are really a great utility brush. You can create lines with this brush. You can get into weird corners with this brush. So you can see I'm going to bring it up. It's almost to a 90-degree angle, and you can get a pretty thin line out of that. Or you can do it on its side and get a thicker line. I don't use this so much in watercolor myself, but I definitely use it when I'm acrylic painting. I love it. Sally and the beef cracker. I need to learn more about that, Laurel. But I'm glad that you are getting something out of this. You can see all kinds of different brushes. And that's the point of today's class, because it really is, you'll find what works for you. And that's important because it makes your journey a lot more enjoyable as an artist. So, and see, you can use this to create like flick out and create textures too. This is a little bit dry as well, so these are great scumbling brushes too. But you can see this is a good all-around brush. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything for this one. So let's try the thick to thin, because we did not try that one with this brush. But you can have it at your 90-degree angle, and as you can see, or can't see, so I'm going to turn this way. We'll kind of do it a couple different ways. So thin, thick, thin, thick. So this is on the side, or we can do it thin, thick, thin, thick. So these are great. You can make flowers with this as well. This is a good brush for that. Well, no problem, Laurel. I know who you are, so I know. Now I know your account, so I know who's talking to me. So that's awesome. Okay, so that is the cat's tongue. Now we're going to talk about the filbert. So I always get these confused, but they are not exactly the same. So this is the filbert. A filbert has a rounded brush edge, but it's flat, as you can see. So that's a filbert, and this is an oval mop. So it doesn't quite have that same roundedness, but it is round. This is a great brush for a lot of pigment load. You need to get quite a bit of water in there. And so this is one of my favorite brushes to use that's not in my regular set. And this one, let's see if I may not have a smaller one. But again, we can do all those exercises with this one that you can do with the cat tongue brush. It's good for working in tight areas. This is one that I'm not sure what's going on with it here. This is one that I use with acrylic paint, and I may not be able to use this one tonight. We'll see. There might be soap left in there. Hopefully not paint. But let's try a different color here. We'll see. So again, this one you can do the thin to thick, or that's not a very good. Thin. You can turn it on its side, thick, thin. This isn't quite as smooth. That could be the operator error there. But this brush is a pretty large brush, so it's good for covering a larger area. And these are great for getting into tight areas. This might be a good brush for landscapes too. You can do all the things with the other brushes that you can do with this one. You can flick out and dry brush and scumble with this brush too. And it's a good alternative too if you're looking for something a little different. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about dagger brushes. These are kind of also, I think people who do scripting and pinstriping, they use these kinds of brushes, lettering, and these are a great versatile brush as well. And what I really like about them, you can see this one's a really small, let's see, that's a small one, and this is a larger one. But let's get a good color here. You have the ability to do a lot of thin lines with this. Curve, get thin and thick lines. So you can practice that. Thin lines that are parallel to one another. They also hold a good amount of water. But as you can see, then you can also make leaves out of these pretty nicely just by turning the brush and doing one side of a leaf at a time. And you can also get into weird spaces, right? So let's see. I want to fill this area. You can really go from thick, and you can flip it over and get in those thin areas. I really like dagger brushes too. So sometimes it pays to really look outside of what you think of as traditional watercolor brushes and just give them a whirl. And just see what you can do with them. I really like golden Taklon brushes, and Trekell is one of my favorite companies that I get brushes from. And if you're really interested in these brushes, you can check out, there's a link down below in the description below. I do get a little kickback from that. It doesn't cost you any more, but just to be transparent, if you bought brushes from that link, I would get a little kickback. So most of my brushes are Trekell brushes these days, but not all of them are. And before I let you go, I want to talk about some other brushes too. Gosh, I can't forget some of this stuff because it's really cool. I have some other brushes too. So as I mentioned before, I use silver brushes a little bit. So this is a triangle brush, and these are really unique. Let's see if I can bring it in here, and you can see this has a triangular ferrule. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it has 3 sides here, and it's got a really pointy point, and it's thick here. It's a very different kind of brush. And let's see, I'm gonna put in our dagger here. This is a really interesting brush, and I learned about it when I was researching for this class last year. And I think, now don't quote me, but I think that there are only a couple of companies that you can actually get these triangle brushes from. So Rosemary and Company has a triangle brush, and they are over in the UK. And this one, it seems to be a natural hair brush. And this one might be a little bit synthetic with natural hair. I'm not quite sure. But let's zoom out because I want to show you what is so cool about this. If you are a flower painter, this might be a really fun brush for you to try. So let's get a little bit of pink. I've got to show you this. I think you're going to love it. We'll take a little bit of pink, and then I am going to dip the very end in my orange here that we were using earlier. So with the name facing up, I'm going to create some petals here. And I'm going to put the point down, and I'm going to shuffle sideways. So there is one petal. I'm going to dip my brush in my paint again with my point in the center. I'm going to lay it down and shuffle, shimmy, shimmy. I think I need a little more pink here. What's fun is mixing colors this way. It really makes this pretty fun. So shimmy, 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 shimmy. And what you can see is it creates these pieces that look an awful lot like a petal. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. And let's zoom in a little bit so you can see this. I'll do it again here. So we'll get a little more of our opera pink. I'm going to dip it in my orange. So the lettering is facing up. Shimmy, 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 shimmy. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Now you don't have to say shimmy when you're doing it, but it's kind of fun. So you see that? Like, this is a really fun brush to have, especially if you're interested in flowers. This brush is really great for also giving you a very thin line. So say you want to do a stem here, you could even do a little leaf. Let's see, I think I need a little more. Let's try it again. But you can see how thin that line can be. And you can just play with it. So the triangle brush is super cool. You can get great lines with it. And I want to show you this great book that I have. This woman is a master of doing, she's a master of doing these beautiful flowers. And this is just one of my favorite artists of the moment. Let's see if I can make my screen go away. There we go. Okay. But she really utilizes brush strokes. Let's see if we can find something here. She really uses the brush to create a leaf or a petal. So I totally recommend this book to see it, to really check out how you can make strokes and leaves and flowers, because they're really just a series of simple strokes that you can do with your brushes yourself. So let's just, I'm going to grab this round brush. So like I showed you before, you can really use it for leaves or for petals, but I'm using this whole brush to do that. Instead of, you have a shape here that you draw and then you paint it in like this, you're really using that brush to do the work. And it also makes the paint run with it, so it gives you a nice even splash of color. So getting to know our brushes a little bit really can make a difference in our work, and it can make it more enjoyable for us as well. And let's see, I'm going to switch my camera up here. So now's a great time for you to pop in any questions that you might have. I do want to show you one more brush, and I think then we might be done. Actually, I want to show you 2 or 3 more brushes, and then I'll let you go. So as you can see, these are brushes that are made to hold water. This is a mop brush, and it holds quite a bit of water, and so when you're doing a background, this is a great brush to use. It really does hold a lot of water, and this is pretty similar as well. This is a jumbo round, and it is for painting bigger spaces and really getting pigment down on your paper. This is what's called a hockey brush, and that is spelled H-A-K-E, and this is a phenomenal brush, and this is what I was taught to use when I first started painting, to do for gradients and backgrounds. And you use it the same way that you would use your round brush to move that bead, but you're holding a lot more water with this brush, and you're moving it with much more water. And oftentimes you're using a much larger paper than I have here to do that with, but this holds a ton of water in it. So these are a great tool if you're doing landscapes or skies, or you have a big area to fill, or you have a big piece of paper. paper to use. So this is definitely a good tool of the trade. And this is a relatively new to me brush. It is an oval brush, or it's called an oval brush, but it has this really cool tip at the end. And I just wanted to show you how much paint this can move. Because this is a great brush that is a contender for backgrounds as well. So you can really get in there and start moving some pigment around. And you can use it to get into tight spaces too, for the most part, with the little tip there. And it's much like a cat's tongue brush. But you can find brushes at Dick Blick, Trekell, Joe, let's see, Artorama, Cheap Joe's. There are all kinds of vendors online where you can find great brushes. And so if you're in the market for something new and you want to try something different, well, I recommend grabbing a new brush and just seeing what it can do for you. See if you can have fun with it and if it changes how you feel about painting at all. So hopefully you found this to be helpful, and maybe it'll inspire you to do some painting. We didn't have a class last week, and I really missed doing it. It feels like it's been so long since I have been with you guys. And so you'll have to let me know how you are liking the new schedule. Next week, we are going to be having a Patreon only live session. I'm not quite sure what we're going to be painting yet, but as you guys are here, some of you who are in the Patreon, let me know if you have something specific that you would like to see, and I can make that happen for you. I'm going to go back to this screen. And what else did I have for you? I might have to look at my notes here. If you're interested in project videos, I just finished a video where I repainted my mom's KitchenAid mixer. That's kind of psychedelic a little bit. So if you're interested in that, you can check out that video. I posted that one yesterday, and it's kind of fun. And if you want to do the same thing to your mixer, well, maybe you'll learn something from there that you can take away with you. Also, I do want to thank my patrons. They make this happen, and I really appreciate you guys supporting this channel, supporting my work here. Maybe my computer is gonna work. There. Colin and Laurel and family, thanks for supporting my work here online. I hope that you get something good out of it, and I appreciate you being here. And if you want to learn more about me and my art, you can go to ihavegumption.com and see what I am doing and up to. I love art, and I love sharing it with you, and I really hope that you learned something new here. Hey Laurel. Awesome. Thanks for the feedback. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you got something out of this and that you learned something new. Hopefully it makes you kind of look at your brushes a little differently and not have any fear when playing with them and going for broke, right? And hey, thanks about the KitchenAid. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm pretty proud of it. I don't know if my mom would like it, but well, what can she do about it? She can't do anything about it now. It's too late. So yeah, so I will see you in Patreon next week. I won't be live on the YouTubes. So if you want to get in on that action, you can visit the Patreon over at Gumption, or you can see me in the following week because I will be back here on YouTube. And if you ever wonder about what the schedule is like for these live classes, just go to I Have Gumption and go to the calendar, and I have them listed there, and I put them in there every month. Depending on what's happening here, so you can be in the know that way too. So thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you, and I will see you soon. Thanks for painting along. Take care. See you later.